Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Earth Sciences Student Support Week podcast for Women in STEM. I'm Lucy. I study environmental geoscience in the Earth Sciences department, and I'm also the vice president of Women in STEM. And I'm here with Erin.
And I study environmental geoscience in first year, and now it's natural sciences, but in the Earth Sciences department. And I'm the course rep for sciences.
Today, we're just going to kind of chat a little bit about Earth Sciences, and hopefully answer some of the questions you might have been having, whether that's about the subject in general or how things are going with the transition to online learning, anything like that. But if there's anything that we don't talk about in this podcast today that you've been wondering, please feel free to reach out to either of us, especially Erin. Erin's very happy to help everyone. And we also have the student support Facebook group, which you should be able to find a link to on our DU Women in STEM Facebook page. So that is a group specifically for Earth Sciences students to ask any questions they might have or anything like that. What's your experience been like in the department, kind of overall, if you were going to generalize it?
So my experience has been really good with the department. I think they're really helpful when it comes to keeping an eye on your progress and like being open to questions and open to pretty much anything that you have that's troubling you. So I think that, and they have a format where it's like summatives and exams, and a lot of summatives throughout the year, and I think that allows you to kind of keep on track of where you are and what learning you have left to go through. And yeah, I just think they're really helpful in general. What about you, Lucy? What have you found that's good about them?
Yeah, to be honest, I love the department. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that it's such a small department relative to many others. So this year, obviously, this isn't happening, but in general, there's an open door policy. So in the past, you would have been able to just walk up to any professor's office, walk into their office and ask for help, which was really, really useful for me in first and second years. And obviously, although we can't physically walk into the offices anymore, I know most of the professors are so happy to respond to emails anytime, set up any meetings um, that you may want to have in order to replicate that. So a big piece of advice I would say is make sure that you're asking for help, and also just don't be scared to ask for help, because I think I've found in my experience that everyone is really, really willing to help you. What was the biggest difference you found when you transitioned from A levels to uni?
Oh, so the biggest difference I found was getting used to like learning independently. So going from basically being spoon fed at A level to figuring everything out yourself, like doing independent reading, like learning to use the library yourself and navigating kind of like big difficult texts, like degree level texts, was like quite challenging, but I think you get used to it, and I think that's why first year like not counting is quite a blessing, because it gives you time to kind of find your footing with that. And I think that was the biggest difference. Apart from that, like the essay writing and the summatives and everything else seemed fairly like easy to transition to. But yeah, the independent learning was most difficult probably. What about you? What did you find that was the biggest difference?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I was surprised how much reading they kind of expected us to do, and while it's not as much as, say, a humanities degree would expect you to do, just because we have so many contact hours, I was surprised that every lecture they would say you should read this or you should get this book. Um, but with that, I've kind of found that you should try to do it if you can, but if not, it is a bit more supplemental than necessary. So that kind of the reading differs from humanities degrees in that way.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say at the beginning of lectures, well, before the lectures, if you need to read something to understand the lecture, they will tell you if it's like compulsory versus recommended. So you'll know in advance whether you definitely need to do it.
Yeah, that's true. Did you do geology A level, Erin?
No, I didn't. So it was really strange transitioning to something where it was like half the people had done it and half the people hadn't. But I think they're really good at teaching you from scratch and like helping you learn the basics whilst not being patronizing. So was okay. Did you do geology for A level?
No, I didn't. I was It's quite interesting, I think, to be part of a department where a lot of people haven't done the A level, where if you think about other STEM subjects like chemistry or biology, everyone there will have done that at A level. So a lot of people will show up on the first day of uni and have never really taken geology before, may know a little bit about it, but haven't formally done it academically. And yeah, I agree with you that it's definitely not necessary. And I think one of the things that I can't remember what professor said this at the beginning, but they said that people who've done geology A level and people who haven't tend to not really do any differently in terms of marks. So obviously geology A level is a really useful experience, but you definitely shouldn't feel discouraged if you're starting an earth sciences degree without having done that.
Yeah, I remember them saying that. I remember them saying something like, you'll notice the difference in the first few lectures, but by the end of first year, everyone's pretty much on an equal footing. So even if it does sound scary in the beginning, it really evened itself out by the end.
Yeah. So what have you thought of our online lectures? Have you been transitioning well? Has it been difficult?
So I find them quite easy in comparison to the in-person lectures, because I quite like being able to do them before and getting to grips with the content, and then having the practicals to actually engage with the content after you've kind of become familiar with it. So I find them a lot more helpful in that way, that it's all split up. But I do find it quite intense in the breakout rooms. That's unusual compared to like the tutorial style before, and the awkwardness really with talking on
To be honest,
FaceTime.
yeah.
But yeah, I found it okay in general. How have you found it?
Yes, I totally agree with you that being able to watch the lectures before is actually really helpful. Because I know one of my biggest struggles is focus. So as much as I miss being in person, I struggled a lot to have to, focus for an hour, even 3 hours straight in our lectures before. And I'd end up having to watch the lectures again at home. So I love now that I can watch it once and just pause it and make sure I've actually like heard everything that's gone through in the lecture. But like I would say, like the breakout rooms for practicals can be a bit rough just because one of the things that I love so much about earth sciences is how easy it is to make friends in the department. And obviously, I can't speak for anyone, but I think a lot of people would agree that because of the field trips and because of how much practical work we do, you really get to know everyone, especially in a small department. So, a lot of the best parts for me of earth sciences were being able to work in person with different people or go on field trips. So it's sad to lose that, but in terms of the academic content, I'm not finding it to be that much of a loss, to be honest.
Yeah, I completely agree with the fact that a social aspect is really big in geology and well, earth sciences in general. So yeah, but I think once you get used to it, in first year it might be a bit difficult, but once you've found your friends, it should be a bit easier. But yeah, for first year it's going to be a bit difficult. But then the field trips will resume hopefully in second and third year, so it
Okay.
should pick up for
So, one last question before we end this podcast. Um, what have you kind of thought about the gender balance in earth sciences? And how have you felt about being in that sort of environment?
So I think that in earth sciences, in terms of like female to male ratio, I think it probably is about 50-50. I haven't noticed particularly it being weighted towards either gender. So I found that in lectures amongst students, I've definitely felt like there's not really been too much notice, like anything noticeable. But with the lecturers, it is really weighted towards like males. There's like probably 2 or 3 female lecturers I've had in my entire 2 years, well now 2.5 years here. So it's not the best, and it does feel a bit alienating to always be lectured by men and not really see a future with the women's in academic sciences. But the students, and hopefully the future of earth sciences will be more 50-50 because the students are 50-50.
All right,
Yeah.
guys, I think that's everything we have for today. I hope that was helpful, but of course, as I said earlier, feel free to reach out with literally anything. You can DM us on Instagram, Facebook message us, join the Earth Sciences Student Support Facebook group, any of that, and we would love to hear from you. So please don't hesitate to reach out, especially in this very crazy year.
Thank you for listening, everyone.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye, guys.